I want to personally share my deepest sympathies to the Rouse family and to their entire family. We've had a tragic 72 hours in our city. 2 young men are dead, and their families and friends are left to mourn their losses. Nothing wins when violence takes over in any situation. Late yesterday evening, we arrested 21-year-old Montrell Deshawn Sweet of Wilmington. Sweet is now in the New Hanover County Jail under no bond and charged with first-degree murder and discharging a firearm into an occupied vehicle. He turned himself into our investigators shortly after the incident. Here's what we know at this time. On yesterday, shortly before 11 a.m., Ali Rouse and a female arrived at an apartment complex in the 2100 block of Market Street. They drove into the parking lot. The suspect approached the victim and the female. Words were exchanged. Sweet then fired several shots at the victim, who was still in the car. Mr. Rouse drove out of the parking lot, traveled west onto Market Street, where he crashed into a vehicle and then a brick wall. Rouse was pronounced dead at the scene. We do know that Sweet and the female had a child in common. The incident sparked from a domestic dispute. This was not gang-related and was an isolated incident involving these two individuals. Immediately following this tragedy, our intelligence unit has discovered information that there may be efforts underway to retaliate. I want to make it absolutely clear to anyone who's involved in any sort of retaliation, violence, it will not be tolerated. We will use every means at our disposal to stop this. Enough is enough. Families are being destroyed because of this violence, and we must learn to resolve these disputes in a peaceful way. This is in fact our 7th homicide of the year. We recently reclassified the homicide from January 29th involving 32-year-old Kevin Billups after the medical examiner ruled it as an accidental death. So I'll take any questions in reference to this, and then I'm going to turn it over to Captain Verone, who will talk about the homicide we had on Sunday.
You said Sweet turned himself in?
Yes.
Did he come here, or how did he?
Yes.
How'd that happen? What time?
Shortly after the incident. I don't have the exact time.
Why wouldn't you have told us that yesterday?
Because it was under investigation, it was, we were following up multiple other leads in the case.
Do you know of any gang-related background between either of these individuals?
There is some gang affiliation, but this is not gang quote related.
What, do you know the name of the apartment complex?
I don't know the name of it.
I don't have it off the top of my head.
So he pulled into the complex in that vehicle it had Pennsylvania tags on it, I think, and with the female, and then Sweet allegedly approached him in the parking lot.
Yes.
And you said they exchanged words. Did the victim ever get out of the car?
Not to my knowledge.
Where was the other woman during this time? The woman that was with him?
She was obviously out of the car at that point.
She was out of the car. Okay. Was she injured or anything?
No.
Do you know how many times he was shot?
We're not going to talk about that. We got a prosecution we have to worry about here.
Has he made his first court appearance yet on that
No.
murder charge?
No.
Do you know when that'll be?
Imagine me today sometime.
So presumably, he was on his way, Mr. Rouse, to the hospital? Was he trying to drive us up to the hospital, or is there any way of knowing that?
Well, we have no knowledge. We think he was trying to escape from the gunfire. Okay, if there's no other questions, I'm going to turn it over to Captain Barone. We'll talk about Sunday's homicide. Okay. Captain Barone.
Good morning. We had another tragic event Sunday morning at about 2:30. Officers responded to the 700 block of Kidder Street to call a gunfire. When they arrived, one block west of there in the 600 block, we discovered what appeared to be a serious traffic collision, which was related to this incident. We learned that shots were fired one block away. The victim in one of the vehicles fleeing the scene was struck and drove into a parked vehicle. Officers arrived and began their investigation. What I do want to put out there and reiterate is that these two events, the one we had yesterday and the one we had Sunday morning, to the best of our knowledge, are not related and they are not random events. There was a best leads tell us that this was not random and that there were some intended targets here. Best information we have on this one from Sunday morning, it is not gang related. We are actively working leads and looking at some individuals. We were questioning witnesses and potential witnesses throughout the night, and we're moving further towards closure on this event as well. But we do want to reiterate these are not random acts, and there's not people out there just randomly shooting at vehicles about the city. They are tragic, but yet not random. And I'm limited as to the questions I can respond to on this because this one is under investigation. There has not been an arrest, but I'll try to do the best I can.
Do you have any persons of interest in the shooting on Sunday?
Persons of interest only.
So, I mean, in both cases, I know that you say that there were intended targets, and yet in both situations, others could have been hurt. I know yesterday there was an SUV that was involved in a wreck. And so because of that potential, just speak to that, if you will, but the fact that although they may be targeted, others are potentially in the line of danger.
Sure. Anytime you have gunfire and acts of violence, anywhere, I don't care where it is, there's potential for collateral damage. And yesterday was a good example, and we're very, very grateful that individual was not hurt. Thank God. From Sunday morning, it was a parked vehicle that was struck, and we're very grateful that there was nobody walking in the roadway at that time in the morning down one block. Otherwise, it could have been a whole lot worse than what it is. But yes, anytime there's violence and there's gunfire and bullets are flying out there, there's always potential for collateral damage. And that's why we can't tolerate, and as not just as law enforcement, but as a community, we can't accept this kind of behavior. And we need to work to resolve this and to mitigate it and end it. So yes, there's always potential for collateral damage.
Are you guys doing anything differently or doing any more patrolling because of these two incidents this week?
I think the chief can respond to that.
Yes, we're involved with our FBI partners, our county partners. We've got our gang units are all out in force. We are not going to sit by idly and let people retaliate. We will do whatever we have to do to stop this before it happens. And this indiscriminate violence, this gunfire, cannot be tolerated in our community. We've got to say enough's enough. How many people have to die? It's going to take some innocent child who's sleeping in their bed, who ends up being shot by these people who have no comprehension of right or wrong. Enough's enough. We've got to stop this as a community. Where's the outcry? Where's the outcry in our community? I ask you that. God forbid it be an officer involved in this situation. We'd have protests. Where are the protests? When's enough enough? How many people are going to die and have to be buried before people say, and we're not going to tolerate this any longer? The silence is deafening. Thank you.
Who do you want to lead that outcry?
Nothing is stronger in our society than grassroots efforts. The moms, the pops, the grandmas, they can make a difference in this. We're not going to make the difference. It takes society to make a difference. And the deafening silence has to stop. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.